In this episode, I'm back to work on my 78 F150, the very first Ford truck I ever owned. In previous episodes, I bought the truck back, got it running again and back on the road, only to find out it wasn't safe to drive because the steering box was tearing itself out of the frame. It was parked again for another year or two while I worked on the overwhelming cab damage and other projects around the shop. In this episode, we're finally fixing that frame damage and dropping in the 460 that we built and dynoed on the channel.
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh, they're made of cast iron. Ooh.
Oh, hi. Oh, what? Oh, this? The Got Your Six shirt? You were wondering where you could get one of those? You can head on over to www.CPR Garage and get your fine CPR Garage merch. Yes, I intentionally made that look like sports jersey because we're showing our support for the real heroes, not people that get paid to chase a ball for a living. So get a hat, get a shirt, get you a Big Block Still Rock shirt with that very big block on the back of it. Get you an original CPR Garage sticker for your mug or a bigger sticker for your back window. I try to order a little bit every month and try it out too. You can see this one has some nice oil stains on it from using it in the shop. So get on over there and check it out. I'll put a link in the description and I'll also put it on the screen right here. Thanks. Hey, real quick here. Saturday night in the shop working on my high school sweetheart 78 F150. So I showed you the cracks earlier around the steering box. And what I've done is I started to stop drill the ends of the cracks. I don't have very good drill bits and whatnot, and the cracks are long and they need dug out anyway. So what I did was took my die grinder and just traced the cracks probably about an 1/8 inch deep everywhere they are. So this little design here gives you an idea of how it happens. This one's the worst, obviously. The steering box is trying to tear this bolt out of the frame when you turn to the right, and it's actually, I don't know if you can see that on the bottom there, but it's actually totally separated right there and tearing out. So we're gonna weld those up, and then we have this lovely custom CPR fabricated reinforcement bracket we're gonna weld on the outside, which was made from this lovely cardboard template that I made on the frame. That'll be on the website for $299.99. So as you can see here, we've got real high standards to match here as far as welds go. Because, I mean, the UAW in the late 70s was kicking ass and taking names. Were they even a thing in the late 70s? I don't know. Here we go. Okay. All welded up, including the bottom. I welded that rivet, and that one's gonna get welded to my reinforcement plate just to keep, you can see there's a backer plate behind there. And that kind of shifting around against the frame is what allows this movement and this cracking to happen. So there you go. I'm gonna grind these all down so that my plate will fit over. We'll remove all the paint, and then we're going to weld my reinforcement plate on there. Okay. So welds are ground down good enough to be flat for our plate to go against. So we will get a little bit of weld-through primer on there. Man, that stuff comes out like right now. I already sprayed my inside of my bracket. Okay, here we go. It's cleanup time, and then frame paint time, and then engine back in time. So there is the custom CPR garage frame brace for your steering box, all welded in. Here's a random clip before I forget. This is something I didn't know. So what we have here on top is a Big Block C6 block plate. And see this? That is my 400 block plate for the manual NP435. I didn't actually know this. The guy at L&L Parts told me. He said you will have to cut that bottom part out to clear the crank on the 460. So lucky enough I had this guy laying around, but that's how much you have to cut. You just make the circle complete. Why they did that, I don't know. Why didn't they just make it one part number? It's not like it has to fit tight around there for any reason. L&L billet flywheel going on. She's a external balance, as you can see by all the drill guys there. I'm putting a little bit of this orange thread locker, pumpkin spice thread locker, because we're giving it a try. It's supposed to hold as good as red, but come apart like blue when you take it apart. So, okay, when you're installing your clutch, you want to make sure your flywheel and clutch pressure plate surface are clean. Just like brakes, oil or grease or anything like that will give you problems. So this is how you install the clutch. A lot of you young people probably don't even know what a stick shift transmission is. So this is important. This is the L&L clutch setup. With this is just a Valio clutch disc. So it's probably just a stock clutch disc for something. See how this side's pretty flat and this side sticks out a good bit? A good rule of thumb is that this side always goes towards the clutch, because if you put this side towards the flywheel, see how that's not flush? These guys will dig into your flex plate or your flywheel bolts. So they make it easy on you. Gearbox side. So this side goes towards you, towards the transmission. Flatter side goes towards the engine. That's almost always how they are, but they usually write it on there to make it idiot proof. So clutch alignment tool, and then this goes into your pilot bearing. And it's gonna kind of stay, but not all the way. Then we're gonna grab our pressure plate, because what you gotta do is get the pressure plate over it. And then we gotta find, this has multiple sets of bolt holes in it. That's just an aftermarket thing. Stock ones I don't think will. I'm pretty sure it's this one. So get you some bolts started. Okay, before these start to get snug, these clutch alignment tools are pretty sloppy. So what you want to do is kind of find, like, I've got probably a 1/4 inch up and down. I can rock that clutch. You want to find the middle. See the clutch disc right there? The friction? Just kind of eyeball it and make sure it looks like it's flush. See me wiggling it? Okay, now I'm gonna snug these down just evenly until that won't move anymore, and then we'll get out the torque wrench and torque them. Thanks, plane guy. Okay, so that's 24 foot-pounds. I'm skipping every other bolt. So 3 get tightened and then 3 get tightened, if that makes sense. Kind of like a triangle. Now I'm going to go around and just check them all. Okay. Okay. And as you're doing this every so often, you should check that and make sure it still goes in and out easily, like so. If it doesn't, then you need to loosen them up and fidget it around a little bit, because the thing of it is, however easy this goes in, that's how easy your transmission is going to go in. So if you don't want to have to fight the transmission going into here and have somebody push the clutch and jiggle it around, and make sure it's lined up good. Okay, now I've heard that these clutches might not clear a couple spots on the bell housing, so we're going to mount that up and roll the engine over, see if it hits anywhere, and then we kind of held the starter up there. It looks a little tight to the flywheel, so we're also going to give the starter a try and make sure that works before we get all the stuff in the truck. Okay, old Ford horseshoe starters, built like a brick shit house basically. You can repair them on the side of the road if you need to. You can rebuild them on the side of the road. This is the old one from my 77 F150 Bruce that I took out due to slow cranking issues and too much voltage drop when I had the Phytech on there. Junk, by the way, Phytechs. This thing is mint. I took it all apart. It's like brand new. And it was a fairly new starter on that truck when I bought it. But I tried to jump it because I want to see if it's going to crank that engine over okay. And it wouldn't do nothing. But like I said, these are so simple to take apart. If you halfway pay attention when you're taking it apart, you can throw her back together real easy. What it ended up being was sat around for a couple years, and this little guy right here, which is a contact point, just like old ignition points, it was a little corroded, just like ignition points, and it wouldn't let voltage go through. So just like cleaning a set of points, I took some 400 grit sandpaper, kind of pried that down, scrubbed her back and forth across there, and guess what? Works just fine. Now, the top cover had just a little silicone on it, which I don't like, and it was rusty. I sandblasted it in my little sandblaster, and now I'm making a new gasket, which is just cut out of an old floor mat. I'm gonna just hit it with the grinder to grind down these bumps and make it flat. Throw it back in there. We're gonna give it a try, and if it's all good, we're gonna paint it. And she's good to go on the new parts shelf. Okay. Most of these old Ford pickups all use the same starter, but when you're doing swap stuff, it's pertinent to double check before you throw it in the truck, because then if the motor doesn't turn over, you don't know what your issue is. So got the rebuilt by me starter put in there. Gosh dang, look at that. Was that a pro rebuild, or was that some redneck on his shop bench? Anyway, so I put my breaker bar first on the crank after I bolted the starter in tight and made sure it still turns and there's no scraping noises, right? So now let's give this a try, see if we can do this or make some sparks. All right, we good. Now we're gonna throw the plugs back in and see if it'll crank it over with the plugs and how good. If it does it okay, probably happy with it because that battery's pretty dead. I think it's at like 12 volts. It's been sitting on the shelf for a hot minute. Okay, here's try number 2. Spark plugs in and tight. Oh, I flapped the tape on the exhaust ports all down so that it can expel some air out of there without just blowing the tape off. So here we go. Let's see how she cranks now. Ooh, she didn't like that. But that battery is really low. So let me hook the jumper pack up to it and then see how she does. Okay, here's with my jumper pack hooked up to my half-dead battery. Whoa!
Fire! We're taking fire! Requesting backup!
Okay, that was loud. It's blowing the tape out anyway. I don't know. I mean, she turns over. Doesn't sound super happy. We'll give that a try, but maybe we'll put down a gear reduction starter for a future upgrade. The popping noise was just blowing the masking tape off the exhaust ports, so let's stop there while we're ahead. You can actually use a gear reduction starter out of an OBS Ford truck. They were that from the factory. So yeah, we'll see. That starter don't sound like she likes it a whole lot. Okay, real quick for you, and then I got to get back to work. Getting the frame prepped to brush on the poor man's Pour 15, which is Rust-Oleum semi-gloss black from Ace Hardware. Great stuff. Sticks to almost anything except clean bare metal. So this little bit of surface rust that's still left, it'll stick to that great. All the bare metal spots I've hit with some primer so that it'll stick to that, because if you get it too clean and shiny bare metal, it doesn't want to stick. I know, that's weird. I got a little bit more cleaning to do, but this area is what you need it to look like for that stuff to stick. It likes like kind of the rust because it bites into that. But like down here where I haven't got that all yet and it's real scaly rusty, that is not good enough. So I've got her cleaned from about here forward. Still got to get back in there. And then I'll do a time lapse of throwing some paint on there. I don't think you really want to watch me wire wheel and clean this. If it's boring for me to do, it's probably boring for you to watch. So I didn't video it all, but I pulled the input bearing retainer off of the NP435, cleaned it all up real good, and put a new seal in there, put it back together. Man, the inside of that transmission looks freaking brand new. And it's got, what has it got on it now? Probably 160,000 miles, something like that, 170. So it will get refreshed at some point, but it's probably just going to get new synchros, because honestly, if everything, bearings and races are all in good shape, they're probably better than the junk that you would buy for a rebuild kit now. So building cars is fun. Yep, it's time for a shower. Okay, I have cleaned the frame one more time, blown it out with compressed air, and hit all of the totally bare metal spots with a little bit of primer. So what I wanted to show you before I get some paint on it, and you can't see it, is in right here. This is the reinforcement plate on the inside of the frame for that steering box, and it was welded from the factory. You can see I boogered some weld on there. Not very good, but better than the factory weld was. So because there was a little booger of a factory weld on there, and I pretty much where are you, you little? Pretty much scratched at it, and it fell off in my hand. But anyway, I couldn't really see in there when I was welding because the MIG gun covers up the hole as you're trying to weld in there, so I just had to kind of shoot from the hip. But like most things, it's better than it was factory. So I'm going to set you up on the time lapse, and we're going to brush some paint on this baby. Okay, here we go. Got you set up on the time lapse right there. Here is your clutch linkage lesson-y type of thing. So, putting my Big Block Ford in my 78 F150, here is the original clutch fork. Don't know what that was. Here's the original clutch fork that I cleaned up good enough for what it is. And then here is the old throwout bearing. They call it a throwout bearing because when you do a clutch, you throw it out. So here's the new one. See the shiny spots right there? It's where stuff rubs against other stuff. And then this notch right here is where it pivots. This is the bearing end. See how it spins? So this goes towards the clutch, because that's what contacts your clutch and allows the clutch and the flywheel to spin and the transmission to not to spin. Okay. When you put these on, you can push it in so far that it's locked down. You don't want that. You want your little springs in the groove, because this guy has to pivot a little bit as it goes in and out, okay? So it'll glide back and forth on the nose cone of the transmission. See that guy? That little weird square head buttony type of guy. This is what goes in that groove. Maybe? Oh, come on. Okay, so there we go. Throwout bearing back off, clutch fork going in, and we're gonna hook that little clip. See? Now she's hooked. You're smearing your hand all over this, kid. Okay. Now, put the throwout bearing in. Sometimes this is how they go. Sometimes you can put it all in as a unit. Depends on what you're working on. You little booger. This is how you lose a piece of finger. There we go. Okay, now you can see I'm in the sweet spot where it's clipped in, but it'll still pivot. Can you see that okay, or do you need a flashlight? This is how your clutch works. Shine over here for me. So you push the clutch pedal down, the bell crank pivots here, or the Z-bar, and it has a little pin that pushes in here, pushes this back, and then come look back here, Bryce. So when this is getting pushed back, that makes your throwout bearing push against the clutch fingers, and that's what releases the clutch. Pretty neat. I need a boot for that, the dust boot, but I can't find anybody who makes one. So if you know, let me know in the comments. They have ones for the old, like the car 4-speeds and stuff, but not this big dude for that. So me and Bryce are dropping the motor in. We don't really have time to mess around, so it is just going to be time lapse. So you guys get to watch from there. Okay, open spacer, made about 5 more horsepower on the dyno without giving up anywhere. So Okay, here is our 750 Brawler. Oh man, that's why we can't have anything nice. Cracked my stupid car cover. Oh, idiot. Look, I'm sorry. You're fine. And that unfortunately is going to be it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. Those that support the channel, thanks for doing so. Some of you guys have been with me like since the very beginning, since I had a few hundred subscribers. Now I think we're knocking on 6,000, so let's try to keep that going. We've got more episodes coming up on this truck. In fact, I'm working on the next episode for this truck right now. And we are hell-bent to get this thing fired in the next episode in the truck. So next episode on the 78 truck, it's going to get wired and fired in the truck. We have motorcycle episodes coming up. Can't show you too much there. And then we also have episodes on my Snowflake, which is my F150 Lightning wannabe, and whatever else I forgot. So if you want to see what happens next with these projects, make sure you're subscribed. If you want to get some of this fine CPR Garage merch, head over to www.cprgarage.com, and we'll see you on the next one soon. Thank you guys.